Hey, Lauren here. Today I'm going to speak about infidelity. Now, I can almost hear you think, not a great topic, not a happy topic, not an uplifting topic, or I'm not so sure. I've spent a lot of time this week thinking about infidelity. You'll hear some noises in the background, and I'll just tell you that story before I continue to talk about infidelity. I drove home today from driving my daughter to the bus stop, the train stop. And when I got home, my neighbour, my lovely, lovely elderly neighbour, was doing my garden. Now, at night after he finishes work, he often has a smoke and a drink, a quiet drink, while he tends to his garden. And he's an amazing gardener and a very gentle soul. And we would have a special rapport talking about plants. So we'd look at my plants and I would say what I wanted to do with the garden. And we'd look at his beautiful, perfect garden. His garden was so perfect. The hedges were so cut with such a sharp edge, and at times he would paint his driveway. The bricks are red, but over time the paint comes off. So he would kneel down for hours and days at a time, repainting the red colour upon the bricks. And then my garden, until recently, has been almost a barren desert. It was beautiful when I first moved in, but when I first moved in, my marriage was over. And it was all emergency stations at that time. So I tended to tend to the greatest emergency, or you may have heard the saying, to fight fires. So I'd fight the greatest fire. And over the years, I gradually started to notice my garden, because I love plants. And my garden was falling apart. Weeds were growing that could no longer be pulled. The bushes were getting so woody that they really needed to be pulled out, some of them. And I wanted my garden to be beautiful, but I needed to look after the children. I needed to look after the importance of their study, their social dynamics, their self-esteem. And I needed to find a way to earn money. And all this took time. And then occasionally friends, well-meaning friends, very well-meaning, would say, you need time for yourself, or they'd often say you need time for yourself, which is a very kind comment. But if someone's drowning, for someone to look at them and say, well, just get out of the water, will you? It's not possible. So if I'm not making enough money to cover the basic needs of my children, for someone to say to me, you need to have time for yourself, it's almost as if they're not seeing that I'm drowning. It's almost as if they are choosing not to see. Now, a lot of people, it's not their fault that they can't see those around them. Like, I'm sure there's many people I'm not seeing. I don't see their issues because I'm wrapped up in my own life. But the point is that when we make judgment, we don't know what other people are going through. We just don't know. So to say to someone, oh, be kind to yourself, take it easy, don't forget to have time to yourself, well, there is a lack of understanding there. But we're talking about my garden. So as I tried to work and tried to find ways to make enough money to support 4 children while looking after their health needs, their physical needs, their educational needs, my garden fell apart. And then we have 2 beautiful dogs, and I used to care for a friend's dogs, and they tore up the backyard, but brought our family much love. And through the months and the years, the garden died and weeds grew and took over, and hedges were overgrown and woody. And I would look out to the garden, and it's almost as if the garden is part of my soul. And I would look out and almost absently think, I've got to get back to my garden, because my garden is who I am. As I continued to write the book and felt rising levels of self-esteem, I would buy pot plants, and I'd place the indoor pot plants in my bathroom, so that even though I didn't have my beautiful garden, I would walk into what I imagined and what I visualized to be this amazing paradise in my bathroom. And I loved those pot plants. I just loved them so much. And they reminded me of who I really am, that even though I didn't have my beautiful garden, I had my pot plants. I had my paradise in my bathroom. So the next door neighbour would look at my garden and he would make suggestions, and occasionally he'd come over and help with something. He may help with some hedging, he pulled out a tree, he fixed a painting, he did other things, and it was not even what he did, it was the generosity and the way he did it without expectation. There was zero expectation. Now, may I just say, in this environment, that there have been fathers that have come in to offer me help, and their intentions have not been well-meaning. They have wanted something in return, and they were looking at me more as a victim than somebody they wanted to help without expectation. My elderly neighbour wanted to help without expectation. So there are moments in my life when I look out from my window, my bay window, and I see him in his garden that I know he loves so much, and the times he's helped us. Today when I drove home, he was in my front garden and he was fixing up one of the garden beds. Now, we talked for some time about this garden bed and what I should do about it, and I kept saying I'll do it when my book's finished. But the formatting of the book has taken a horrendous amount of time. No one's fault, a learning experience for me. So I got home and he was tending the garden bed that we had talked about so many times. Now, in the times we talked about what to do with this garden bed, he had gone home and he had cultivated from cuttings plants which he saw fit to plant in my garden. And today he was doing the garden bed. And I can't put into words what that experience meant to me. In the sometime travesty of life, it is the small gifts of empathy from neighbours which make it all worthwhile. And today I feel incredible happiness because the next door neighbour is tending my garden bed. This week has been a thoughtful week, a week of contemplation, a week of profound thought. I am going over some of the mistakes in the formatting of the book, little mistakes, missing periods at the end of sentences, commas, etc. But to do so, I have to sit down for 3 or 4 hours because I have to reformat the mistakes in a way that the designer's robot can search for them. So it's not a simple matter of sending an email. So it's taken longer than I thought it would in a week where I had several commitments. I've been invited to a YouTube content lab yesterday, which was 8 hours, and I was so privileged to attend and really enjoyed it, which is great for my career. And there's been basketball every week. So I have felt pensive. I felt like I'm not achieving a lot. And I have fought the feeling of, how do you put that feeling? Not a feeling of loss, a feeling of melancholy, I guess, because I want to be able to tick things. I want to say this book's out. I'm working on the next one, by the way, which is about stress reduction. Tick, my book's out. Now I can talk about it because I'll be doing lots of videos explaining the book so that you'll be able to use the book. And I'm going to have a special series of meditation videos to celebrate the release of the book. But I feel like I'm treading water this week. And during this time, I received a message from a listener that is special to me, that I've known for years, and her partner was unfaithful. And I could just feel the emotion in her messages and deeply felt for her, because as much as YouTube can have intimacy, or you can have an intimate connection with your viewers through feeling, through sentiment, through listening to letters, to writing letters, there is still the separation of distance. And it's really, really important to me to come out to London, California, and Puerto Iguazu in South America. It's my driving goal at the moment to offer extremely cheap self-inquiry workshops, which are workshops where you ask questions about life and we answer them. It's really important that I do so with my children. So when the book is in a tread water stage, I find it exasperating. So one of my viewers had an experience of infidelity, and I felt so much empathy for her. I did a video about it, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about it, because when we have an experience of infidelity, it's not just the infidelity itself. It's like a rotten onion. There are so many layers of rot that you've got to go through that stink, that reek, that hurt, that only you with your bare hands can unwrap that onion. And sometimes you want to put that damn onion on top of the shelf and ignore it. But if you ignore it, it's going to rot and be moldy and stink. So you've got to get to the onion. And no one else, you can't make anyone else unwrap that onion. You can't say to your friend down the road, "Can you unwrap my onion? I can't bear to, it's been too painful." Because that friend will say, "Just move on. You'll be okay. It's all for the best. Come on, cheer up. Let's go out and have a coffee. And after I've listened to you for one coffee, you need to be happy." It's not like that. It's not like that. Infidelity is so far-reaching. And I'm not saying that it's devastating. Well, it is. But I'm not saying it's devastating, period. What I am saying is it's an experience that you and you alone understand. Understand is too strong a word. You're the one feeling it. You are feeling it. Your partner has been unfaithful, and it's your stuff. It's your story. It's your onion. And no one gets how rotten that onion is. And you only get part of it yourself. The reasons you only get part of it is, let's look at infidelity. Let's look at what it is. When we enter into a special, significant relationship with a special other, there is an understanding. And the understanding includes that you are going to foster the self-esteem and the sense of autonomy of the other person. And the other person is going to foster your self-esteem and your sense of autonomy and personal empowerment. So the idea of a relationship is that you are nurturing each other like precious plants that you fertilize, you water, and you tend. So a relationship is like the union and the separateness of two precious plants. Now, part of the understanding of those two precious plants is honesty. You don't have to say everything all the time, but there is an understanding to respect the other person and include them in the conversation of your life. So when there is infidelity, and by infidelity I mean the infidelity of intimacy, you have disrespected that person. You have lied to that person. you have betrayed that person. Not only that person by the act conducted or the series of acts, but the dreams you had as a relationship, your goals, the way you saw your story, the way you saw your story ending, the chapters of that story. No longer do the chapters make sense. No longer do they have a clear storyline because the other person decided to rip up the pages or close the book or throw the book away without your permission. It was a book that you both loved and the other person destroyed it. And that's hurtful. Beyond that, it's also the way you reflect on the past. Through time, it's important that we reflect upon memories and enjoy those memories. Perhaps a relationship ends, but we can still look back and enjoy certain memories. When someone's unfaithful, you don't know what memories are real. You don't know what words were meant, what words had meaning. You don't know what sentiment had meaning. And that can be really painful. So I've talked about the pain of infidelity, or really I've brushed over it because everyone's pain is different. So I have no right to talk about the depth, the complexity of somebody's pain when they experience infidelity. I have no right. Not at all. So let us work with the acceptance that we do not understand another person's pain when they experience infidelity. We don't. We can't give them timelines. We can't explain or justify or suggest. All we can do is say, I'm sorry. That's all we can do. Let's say that we're experiencing the infidelity. It's happened to us, or it may have happened to you. It's happened to us, or it may have happened to you. What do we do? What do we do? How do we cope with that? How have you coped with infidelity? What have you done when you've experienced infidelity? What have I done? I'd like to explore that today, what we can do in the face of infidelity. Now, I want to do this very gently because I really believe that none of us have the right to tell someone else how to be, how to behave, or how to feel in the face of infidelity. But let's look at it academically. I'm incredibly, very, very sorry for my viewer who experienced infidelity recently. Very sorry. I've also experienced infidelity. I had a partner many years ago that was unfaithful to me, and there was a number, without giving you too many details, there were a number of issues around that point that really hurt me. One is we made a number of goals together as a couple, and they were predetermined, discussed, agreed upon, and they took time and effort to make those goals. And then I made the decision to live with this person, and being a strong Christian at that stage, we all grow and change. I didn't believe in living with someone. So I chose to live with this person when my brothers and sisters were fairly young and my parents were more conservative than they are now. So it was a big decision. And I'm not going to give you all the sort of details because it's quite a sad story, but the person said to me over time, and they came across from another country, they said to me they were not sure about getting married, so they wanted time to think, and on many occasions this person went for walks along the beach, and he would say to me, I just need to find myself, I need to think, I want to go for a walk along the beach. So I would say, yes, go for it, go and find yourself, do that, that's great. And over months he just wasn't going to the level of the relationship that we'd planned, that we discussed. And that had an effect on me. I didn't understand. At times I thought, what have I done wrong? I lost confidence in myself physically. I was a little bit ashamed because I'd told my friends that we were we had certain goals and they were just not happening. I went out less. I comfort ate. I didn't feel sure of myself. But I continued to encourage him to go and find himself. And the end of the story is that I found out in a particular way that he had been visiting a friend of mine that lived at the beach, and you could work out the rest for yourself. But most of my friends at that time knew of what was really happening, and they chose not to tell me for their own reasons. And the result of that was years and years of grief. I experienced such grief on so many levels. One is that he committed to the joint goals that we had, and the goals took money, time, thought, that I was not aware of the true nature of the relationship, what was occurring. It was affecting my confidence, my choice of job, my eating habits. I wasn't visiting my friends, and my friends chose not to tell me. So when I eventually found out, I chose not to see any of those friends again for many years. I'd be guessing at 10 years. And so it was about, I would say about 8 years that I went through different layers of that onion. And there's a lot more to the story, but that gives you an idea. I look back now and I wished that I had let go. I wished that I forgave my girlfriend, by the way. I forgave her quite quickly. I wished I forgave her instantly. I wished that, and you know that I'm not a believer of wishing, and I'm not a believer of shoulds, because I don't think we should have that expectation. But for the sake of this episode, I'm going to say that I wished that I forgave her instantly. I wished that I forgave my friends instantly. The reason being is I carried resentment for 8 years. There's a part of the story I haven't said, and I don't think I want to upset anyone by saying it, but there was a loss there that I won't share with you at this time. Only I don't mind sharing it, but I don't want to hurt your feelings or have you feel sad for me. But I felt so much regret, so much resentment, and so much bitterness that it consumed years of my life and affected my ability to move forward in my life. Now, I'm not saying that when we experience infidelity, we should move on. I don't agree with that. But I profoundly and passionately agree that if someone hurts us or does something that we are likely to feel hurt by, because at the end of the day we choose our feelings, but let's say they do something like infidelity, which most of us would be really hurt. We give our power away when we feel bitterness or resentment. Now, it's too much to ask to say to you, don't feel resentment, don't feel bitterness. I just think that's too much to ask. But there has to come a time where we, almost like homework, doing our times table, we say, okay, I'm going to force myself to go out. I'm going to force myself to go to the gym. And if I just get 6 minutes under my belt, I feel okay. I'm going to go to bed early. I'm going to meditate. Even though I don't feel like it, I might just do 2 minutes, 1 minute, 6 minutes, whatever. I'm going to aim to eat well several days a week, even though I feel like going wild at McDonald's or whatever the issue is. I know I comfort ate all the time at that stage. I'm going to do it for my sense of self because of life is so precious. Now, I only have the ability to say this now at age 51 because I lost years in my 20s and years in my 30s feeling resentment for this situation and blamed others and felt the victim. And you know, everyone says, don't be a victim. Well, that's kind of nuts and it's ridiculous. If you're really hurt, you're really hurt. But we do have the ability, the power to put a line in the sand somewhere. It may not be the 2-week mark or the 6th month or maybe the 18th month, but you still have the ability to put the line in the sand. And you need to know If you don't put that line in the sand, if you say, I'm going to continue to grieve because it's just too painful, you're actually giving power to that person that hurt you. And let's think about that at the moment. You are an amazing person. You are authentic. You have infinite possibility. Why give power to someone who chose to lie to you? And let's not mince words here. Whether they're a weak person or not, it doesn't matter. They still chose to betray you. How much power do you want to give them? A minute? An hour? A night of sleep? A packet of chips? A chocolate cake? A piece of chocolate? It's not the food that matters. It's the way you feel at the time. How much power do you want to give that person? This is your experience. I'm not saying to you, get over it. I'm not saying move on. I'm not saying don't be a victim. But I'm saying be bigger than them. Perhaps not today, perhaps not tomorrow. Don't give someone smaller than yourself your power. Taking back power is not this huge stand where you cross your arms and say, I can do anything. It's a matter of crawling when you're feeling sad. Crawling one knee and elbow at a time and occasionally taking breaks. And after you've done that for a while, you take a step and another step and another step, and then perhaps you fall back. Have a bit of a crawl. Get up. Get up. Get up. Get up. And then you might decide to rest for a while by the side of your road. Look at the onion again, and then you get up. You get up. You get up. Notice how much time you spend grieving. You may need that time. Good. Don't give that time to the person who hurt you. Get up. Get up. Get up. When someone is unfaithful to us, we were in a relationship with that person, so there are feelings of attachment. And it's important to understand that feelings of attachment run deep. They run deep. They're very, very important. As human beings, we are made to form attachment to other human beings. These feelings of attachment are hormonal, so they produce oxytocin and other hormones. So it's almost like being addicted to smoking. I've never smoked, so I don't know, but as I would imagine an addiction. So when someone's been unfaithful, you have feelings of betrayal, feelings of missing them, and feelings of wanting them back. And then you consider, well, these feelings are irrational. How can I want back someone that doesn't share my values? But then you might remember a nice dinner or a nice moment or a hug, or you may feel lonely, or you may have a hard day at work, and you come home to an empty house and you remember a particular dinner the partner made or a particular gesture the partner had. The thing about relationships too is we don't have a relationship with one person. We have a relationship with their values, their caregivers, their good side, their flaws, their positives. We have a relationship with their onion, their levels, their layers. So when they're unfaithful, and I assume the relationship ends if it does, there is grieving for so many things, and there is such mixed emotion because you can still love them. And sometimes love is irrational. Sometimes it's just about attachment. So at the end of the day, what do we do with these feelings? Number one, forgive yourself. If you feel pain that is coming from infidelity, forgive yourself. Someone who chooses to be unfaithful and to lie about it, it's their stuff, it's not yours. It's nothing to do with anything you've done. If you did something that could have been done differently, the response that is reasonable is communication. That person, the required response is that they speak to you about it, not that they're unfaithful. So it's not your fault. Infidelity is always wrong. It is always deceitful. It's always confusing. It's always frustrating. And it always hurts our past as well as our present and future. So number one, forgive yourself. Be gentle. Be kind to yourself. Number 1, forgive, be gentle, be kind. Number 2, create space around you. Create the space to heal. I don't know what this looks like and how it's done for you. Ensure it's respectful, so it's not about locking people out. It's about creating space that allows people around you to live and interact, but gives you the space to heal your little plant of a soul. Identify what actually occurred. When you're ready, journal about it and write about it and name it. Over time, I realized that my resentment became a bigger plant than my relationship had ever been. And my resentment took over my career direction, my decisions, my friendships. Now, my friends who did not share with me the infidelity, they were weak, they made poor choices, they weren't bad people. They didn't know what to do, they were young. But by having no contact with them and feeling negative feelings about their behaviour, it only affected me. They still continued to live. They were fine. So we need to not give power away to that pain. Allow the pain to heal in its own time. At times embrace the pain. Sit down and say, I feel pain. I feel pain, and that's okay. Work out strategies to heal. I don't know what they are. You would have some idea. Keep a journal and look at ways to experience the moment and enjoy the moment. Now, I know sometimes that sounds just plain ridiculous. It takes time. I know at certain times, when I've been sad and then I think, a cup of tea is good. A cup of tea isn't going to cure pain following a relationship infidelity, but it gives you a moment of comfort. And over time, the distance between the moments of comfort reduce. And over time, the time between sunrises doesn't seem so important and life becomes a sunrise again. I don't know when, and sometimes the time can seem lengthy, but you have one life, I have one life. Why would we give our life away to weak people or people who choose to be dishonest or people that justify it? Don't worry about what they say, what they think, or what they've done. Infidelity, betrayal is never okay. It's never okay. So don't give it more life than it deserves. Turn away from it. Now, may I just rationalize here? I'm not saying move on and get over it. I'm saying you know your story. You walk your path. You deal with your onion. I feel for you. I care for you. So you may have experienced infidelity or maybe you didn't, but that is my story for today. I'm very sorry for my viewer. I hope that you're all okay. I do sincerely enjoy you listening to my creations. Please subscribe to my iTunes podcast, Being Well with Lauren, and my YouTube channel. That helps me a lot. So please subscribe and share my videos and write to me, because I feel like you're right there and I enjoy your company. I enjoy hearing from you. I hope that you're sleeping well and I hope that you are well.